Hey everyone, Happy New Year. I was going to share what I'll be using in 2019 for journaling and art journaling, but before I do that, I thought I should share what I used last year, given that I wasn't great about making videos, and you can see I wasn't great about being creative all year round. I used a Hobonichi Cousin, which is the A5 size, and this is a speckled fawn. I think it's in rustic Kodiak, an A5. I'm not positive though because I bought this from the buy-sell trade groups, but I love this leather. It's very kind of Indiana Jonesy, and it's not precious. You can see there's paint marks on it, and so it's been really nice. The Cousin, I would say I would give myself a C grade, maybe. Yeah, I would say a C grade, only because as far as how I use the Cousin, what I love about this is the size. I love the amount of space. I did use an A6 in the past, and it was too small for me. But as you can see, I kind of drop off, and I didn't use it all year. So this is the weekly spread, which looks blank like this. I don't like to plan in my Cousin because I plan using my Hobonichi weeks, which is right here. But what I did in the beginning of the year is I just wrote down quotes every day, a quote that I would hear on TV, I saw on Instagram, or a funny thing. This is quotes about the weather, about bomb cyclones and bombogenesis. Do you remember these? There was a huge cold snap around the beginning of the year last year. Or funny things that, you know, my bestie and I, that we talked about, funny things my kids said. So that's how I use these pages, and it worked for a while. It's certainly fun to look at them. But I didn't keep it up. So that is the one thing I would say I always have a problem. I start out really excited, and then it drops off. Other than that, I use the beginning pages for just testing out stamp pads and inks. I wish that Hobonichi sold blank journals undated, because truth be told, that would be the best for me. But at the same time, I'm trying to build a practice this year of being creative every day. So I'm hoping that it will work for me this year. So this is just my first page along with my one little word. And I chose this because I wanted to remember that all of my efforts were enough in all areas of my life, whether it's as a mother or as, you know, working. And I also wanted to remember that we have enough. I wanted to be satisfied with what we have and not want for more. So enough was, you know, I tried to focus on that word all year. This beginning, in the beginning of the year, on the 3rd of January, we went to Pittsburgh because my husband's cousin is the mayor of Pittsburgh, and it was his inauguration. So that was a really unique and interesting experience for the kids. And again, it was super cold. So a lot of you can see my art journaling, it relates to how cold it was. Funny quote by my 5-year-old. I was watching The Crown with my husband. This is from a Trader Joe's bag. A lot of my ephemera, I honestly I don't use a lot of stickers, or I don't buy a lot of stickers, I should say. I just cut out free things from magazines. This is a bag. Then it was 41 degrees, and it felt downright tropical. And also, if you illustrate your own images and you don't really need a whole lot of extra stuff. Talking about In Search of Discipline, because these are some things that I wanted to buy. My son started T-ball. I was back at the General Assembly where I work, always just January through April. And then this is a nice way to use up 2 pages if daily pages stress you out. I just put one of my favorite pictures of my son. He was holding my hand, and we were at the car wash, and I thought this quote would fit nicely. And this is cut from a French children's book. I get a lot of my books at used bookstores for really, really cheap. And I don't really feel bad about cutting them up. I know some people have issues with that, but I feel like I'm giving them new life. This is a summary of what we did on our 3-day weekend. Little thing about winter. I think this may have come from an anthropology catalog. Then I flew to Phoenix to spend time with my best friend. We went to the Creativation Conference in Arizona, and Phoenix was 73 degrees when I touched down, so that was so nice. And we got to meet and take a class with Dina Wakley. One of her sayings is, oops, oh well, and that's how she treats all mistakes. And I think that's such a great way to be, because you can see there are plenty of mistakes. Like, I didn't realize that this pen was not waterproof. And so when Kelly Clapstein, one of my favorite calligrapher letters, when she wrote this for me, then later on I went back and tried to put some watercolor down and ruined it. We also met Jane Davenport. We got to see new products. We had such a good time, and that's Kat. So I just wanted to document it all. This is from an old children's book. I often use quotes as prompts to journal a little bit. I wanted to remember how we do these Friday night sleepovers, which is fun. And then I discovered Snapchat, and I wrote, life will never be the same. These, oh my gosh, these filters are hysterical. We got a new rooftop, and I was so happy because we really needed it. Then the flu was going around, and I wanted to keep the kids in a bubble. This is an easy thing you can do if you have old photographs laying around. I just you know, cut the background out, and then I can put it in my journal and illustrate around it. I was having trouble getting a passport, and then this was a January wrap-up of some of the highlights. Moving into February, I was going to Japan in a couple months, and I wrote, she couldn't fit into her skinny pants, but she also wanted to eat cake. It's my daily dilemma. This is from a Flow magazine. I wrote, this is what parenting can feel like. To this high wire act where it's a constant balancing act. And interestingly enough, this arm broke off when I was pasting it. And I thought, of course, it's the mom's arm that has to break off. I wanted to remember how the Eagles won the Super Bowl. My husband and I, we met in Philadelphia. I lived there for about 5 years, so we were super happy that the Eagles won. I wanted this Peg and All wax canvas tote bag, and instead of just buying it on a whim, I decided to illustrate it in hopes that the wanties would go away, and they did. I ended up not buying it, although I still love it, but I'm learning that if you just wait a little bit, often that feeling of I have to have it will pass. I was the mystery reader at my son's preschool, and we read The Day the Crayons Quit. It was raining nonstop, if you remember, in the spring, and so I was just so grateful that we had a new roof. My son, he bought himself a PS4, a PlayStation 4, and, you know, we're just kind of navigating all these issues because he was 10 at the time, and with the PS4, you can play online with friends, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that, so I was just documenting that. My younger son, my 5-year-old, loves stamping, so I let him stamp in here. A quote, art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. Then we were car shopping. I wrote down what was on our short list. We were watching the Olympics. And then this is the $469 apple. This is kind of an embarrassing story, but I thought I have to remember this. I was eating an apple. Now, there's only one thing that I ever allow myself or my family to throw out the window, and that is apple cores, because we have this thing where we feel like if you throw an apple core into the forest, then maybe an animal will find it, and you know, it's biodegradable. So anyway, I finished eating an apple, and I saw a perfect spot where I thought, okay, I'm going to throw this, and for a split second, I looked down, so I can look for the little toggle for the automatic window on the passenger side. And when I did that, I hit the curb and ended up blowing out a tire. And we needed, not only did we need a tow, but we needed 2 new tires, and we had to fix the alignment. So it ended up costing us $469. And I don't think I've ever thrown an apple out the window again. Valentine's Day, my husband, he's often our superhero. He does so much for us. The start of Lent. Then my husband took the kids out of town for 3 days, so to visit his family, and I stayed behind so I could purge, declutter, clean, and just, you know, get the house under control. And if you're a mom, you could probably relate to how valuable this kid-free time is. So I went, this is how it felt, like to just purge and get rid of all this stuff. I went to Goodwill, I think, at least 3 times to drop off things, a quote. Then the kids came home. This is my son and his best friend. My favorite tea from Paris. My friend went to Paris and brought this back for me. I love this quote. Have nothing in your house that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful. That was William Morris in like the 1800s. So his words still hold true today. This quote I love. Your mind will always believe what you tell it. Feed it hope, feed it truth, and feed it with love. Or feed it love. And I've been trying to draw more girls over the last year. And this one I was pretty happy with. I drew it in a book and then just put a little bit of watercolor on it. This was some beautiful paper that I really like. So I kind of matched the feeling of this on this side and illustrated that. My son was getting into Lego. I was budgeting. This is just mark making. My son had some cavities. You will find that it is necessary to let things go simply for the reason that they are heavy. For me, I sometimes instead of, you know, really journaling, I think a quote is pretty sufficient. It tells you where my head was at the time. There was a huge windstorm that caused a lot of damage. We had all these things break at once in our house, and it felt like the money pit. Here's another idea if you don't know what to write about. I just listed out our favorite meals. This is cut out from a Trader Joe's little pamphlet. Be kind to judgmental people. They are judging themselves the most, and that ain't no easy life. I was feeling like I was getting sick. I wrote, Mama, don't have time for that. My throat's sore and Landon has a cold, so I likely got it from him. Please don't let it be the flu. And then I definitely got sick, and I stayed in bed like a slug and zoned out. Then it was International Women's Day. So I was just thinking, wanted to do a little tribute to all the amazing women from different walks of life and faith and ethnicities and that I know and I've met on Instagram, for instance. This, I believe I did this when I was with Annika, my good friend who lives near me, one of my only artsy friends who lives close to me. We try to get together once a week. So usually I use another journal, but every now and then it's fun to just do art spreads in here. This is my son started drawing airplanes, and I love them so much. So I thought I would make some clouds, stick them in here with his planes, and this is jelly printed clouds. Then we were thinking of moving. My weekly wins, I meal planned, read the same truck book to Landon 3 days in a row with enthusiasm. KonMari, 3 bags of clothes, planned out a fun birthday celebration for my husband despite being sick. And if you don't know what KonMari is, it's the Magic of Tidying Up book. It's been a very good book for me because it's inspired me to really focus on what brings me joy, what we use, and kind of let go of the rest. This is a quote by Bob Goff. He has so many good quotes, but this one says, what if we found out that God's big plan for our lives is that we wouldn't spend so much of our lives trying to figure out a big plan for our lives? Perhaps he just wants us to love him and love each other. I thought that was brilliant. I think this one, I didn't do this chronologically. I came back to it, and what I like about this is I like texture. This is from a hexagonal punch, and you can see that I just punched out hexagons on scrapbook paper, pasted them down, then I painted over it and used some stencils, and I like the way it turned out. What's annoying me right now, didn't finish, on my radar. I like to just sometimes list things out. This is putting color down with a quote. The secret to having it all is knowing you already do. What depletes my cup, what fills my cup. March for Our Lives. This was the marches that, you know, with so many people disgusted by all of the gun violence, and I was feeling that frustration. Then I started packing to go to Japan. I went on an amazing trip with my parents, and I was illustrating what I was most looking forward to, and happy that I was able to go relatively light. I wanted to pare down my belongings so I could buy things and bring it back home. I got to see my sister and her family before I left, because I flew out to meet my parents in Houston, which is where my sister is. Then we flew, made the 13-hour trip, wrote the highlights of the movies we watched, and then the lowlights. Wrote out what our first snack was as soon as we got off the plane. I'm Japanese American, so I just live for the food when I go there, besides the shopping. But the gardens were beautiful. It was right around at the end of cherry blossom time, but it was beautiful. And then the bullet train was really just amazing. But then you'll see that I completely dropped off, and I wish what happened was it just was all our days were packed. I was tired, so I did not get to finish these pages. So, and then once I came back, I definitely lost my mojo for some reason. I wrote a little bit about coming home. The jet lag was real. Barbara Bush died. This is a great quote. You must read to your children, and you must hug your children, and you must love your children. Your success as a society depends not on what happens in the White House, but on what happens inside your house. I love that. A little journaling with some, I think these are distress sprays. I find it too saturated, so I didn't love it. This is art inspired by my trip to Japan. Quote, you have to cherish the world at the same time you struggle to endure it. I love that. Some unfinished pages. Now these, I actually did these pages in December. I came back and started using blank pages. So this is a crazy bright spread with all of these stickers from my childhood. I have literally saved these stickers for about 25 years. And I just would never use them. I got them as freebies in these Japanese like manga illustrated like magazines that my parents would get me, and I loved them so much, and I never used them. And so, you know, I thought, why do we save things? They should be enjoyed and savored. And these are stickers also from my childhood. I used to love Garfield, and one of my most vivid childhood memories is getting a Garfield phone. This phone you would pick up on his back, and then Garfield's eyes would open. And I just remember how excited I was to get my own phone. I like, so it's funny because as much as I absolutely love bright, vivid colors, but I also like really muted things too, like not super bright. So it I have many sides to my personality also. I was just prepping some pages, but I didn't really do anything with that. Love this quote. The sun will rise and we will try again. Sometimes I like to prep my pages beforehand just for fun, but other times, since I don't know what I'll be writing about, I don't. So then you can see here, I just dropped off. I lost my, you know what it was, is I just was adding too many things to my plate. I added another part-time job, and the kids were heavy into baseball. So I was having to just juggle a lot. And one thing I've realized about myself is that I'm kind of all or nothing. I'm in it or I'm not in it. And that, has not been great with my creativity. It was kind of scary to think how quickly I could fall off the creative bandwagon. I was just writing things to track, guilty pleasures. This is in August. I have a love-hate relationship with, I like writing out lists when I don't really want a hardcore journal. I want it and I'll make do. I was trying to just reset, readjust, restart, refocus as many times as you need to. And then quotes. I have really been trying to become, I don't want to say minimalist, but I just want to get rid of the excess, the things that are weighing me down. I'm vowing what's on my mind, what I enjoy. I love this. Be satisfied with where you are and eager for what's next. Wins of the week. I think I might want to start doing this year. My friend Helen on Instagram, Journal with Purpose. She has these amazing journals, but she does this weekly, or maybe it's monthly, but she writes like what she's proud of. And I think it's great. It makes you realize that so many things in your life are going right. My mother-in-law, my sweet mother-in-law, passed away, and this was on her funeral. I just wanted to document what a lovely celebration it was of her life. And then finally in November, after a long absence off of Instagram, I got back on again, and it's been good. I've decided to not put pressure on myself to post every day, and it's been I feel like I've been able to handle everything a lot better. This is my son's first lost tooth at 6 years old. I do like this one. I cut this out of a children's book and just used watercolor and doodled. This is out of, I think, maybe a calendar. So it's a hodgepodge of everything. December, I was writing about decorating, Fortnite. Oh, I have such a love-hate relationship. This is kind of funny. Not so funny, but I lost my phone. I misplaced it in the house. I was late. I was almost late to go to a funeral, which, you know, you can't be late to go to a funeral. But I misplaced it, and I got in the car, and my husband had put gas in the car, and he had been listening to some talk radio show. And the second I got in the car, this woman was talking about how clutter and stuff are robbing you of your time and sanity. And I honestly felt like it was God speaking to me. I thought, oh my gosh, like the fact that the second... Anyway, so I just needed to remember that. More funny things that my little guy says. I was with my friend Annika when I drew this. She was literally sitting across the table from me, and we were talking, and I enjoy spending time with her. She's been really influential. Like, one thing she's so good at is she's built a creative habit of doing something every day. And so I'm definitely going to try to emulate that. This is about just a quote that I saw that I love. Practice the pause. Pause before judging. Pause before assuming. Pause before accusing. Pause whenever you're about to react harshly, and you'll avoid doing and saying things you'll regret later. I think I could definitely use that more often. It's so, children, they just trigger you, right? So I'm going to be working on that. This was not meant to be a moon, but I don't know, I put down the colors and I started thinking, this looks like the moon. Everyone wants to be someone's sun to light up someone's life, but why not be someone's moon to brighten in someone's darkest hour? Okay, this is my 2018 most valuable players. I'm so embarrassed. This is terrible. This is supposed to be Dave Ramsey. He's this financial guru, and he's helped millions of people get out of debt. And we started listening to him and following his financial teachings, and we've already paid off a ton of debt this year because of him. So I wanted to just pay homage to him and our Instant Pot. We've used our Instant Pot so much this year. It's been such a lifesaver, especially with our so many baseball games and whatnot. And then we've been going to Trader Joe's and Aldi's a ton, and it's really helped us with our budget. And then, of course, Jesus and our faith has sustained us a lot this year. Back to basics. This was, I just wrote down part of a really, really amazing post that I think it's a blog post actually from bulletjournal.com. And it was talking about how you have to be really mindful of, you just have to make your journals and your whether it's a bullet journal or art journaling or journals, that you can't emulate other people. You have to find your own style. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you. And he was saying, if you're ever feeling stuck, unmotivated, overwhelmed, or simply out of touch with your journal, go back to the basics. Take a step back. Begin by remembering why you started. And maybe you've outgrown your original needs, or you have new challenges, and that's fine. But it's a renewed opportunity to figure out what you care about, or what you need, how you need to utilize your tools. And he wrote, the purpose of your bullet journal must be defined by you. Match your tools with your purpose. Strip away everything that doesn't support your purpose. Start simple. Build slowly. Your practice doesn't have to be profound or beautiful. It needs to be real, relevant, and effective. Most of all, it needs to be yours. And this really spoke to me because I feel like on Instagram, for instance, or YouTube, I find so many other people's art and their journals. I find them to be so inspiring, but and sometimes you will try to replicate what they're doing, but ultimately, if it's not your style, or if you have to put in so much effort to make it like someone else's style, then it's going to feel like work and it's not going to be fun. So, this was inspired by some Japanese rice crackers, the packaging. It was so pretty, and so I wanted to, and I love this quote, the slower you go, the more you feel. Our 2018 wins. And then we ended the year on a bad note when I needed a tooth extraction on Christmas Eve because it's just a root canal that had a fracture in it and it led to an infection. So it wasn't a great end of year, to be honest with you, but everything's good now. So again, even though I wasn't able to continue all year round, I still see the value of the Hobonichi and just doing and journaling and documenting on a semi-regular basis. But I also remember my friend Rita, her words. She says, it's just paper. Like, don't feel so bad. If you use what you use, and this isn't a waste. It's just, it wasn't working for me at the time. So I still, especially until my new Hobonichi gets here, I ordered it very late because I didn't think I wanted one. I am going to continue to use some of the blank pages. So thanks so much for watching. I'd love to hear if you are using a Hobonichi, what size, how you're using it, and maybe what some of your goals are for this year too. That would inspire me. I will be sharing next a little bit more on this journal. This is my 2019 goals journal, and what planners I'm using. So thanks for watching and have a great day.